You are listening to the Young Sports Cast. Stay tuned.
Right now, a lot going on in the NFL with releasing players. I'm trying to get down to the 53-man roster, but I'm going to go back a little bit to the Bears-Chiefs game. I was disappointed out of the gate. I thought that Caleb did a very good job of coming in the 2-minute warning and doing very good with moving the ball down the field. He consistently last year and this year has done very well with fast-paced offense. He seems like he makes quicker decisions. He makes good decisions. He does well protecting the ball. He does very well in the 2-minute warning, and we saw that last year when we were down. It seemed like he just bam, 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 walked right on down the field. The problem is through the game, and I saw that this last game, he had 5 seconds to throw the ball, and he got sacked on that play. And Ben Johnson's remark was, and comment was, that's a great offensive lineman to hold up for 5 seconds. And I agree with that. The problem with Caleb is, and this happened last year, he got sacked more than I think any quarterback in the NFL, or he's close to holding the record. That's not a record we really want. Last year, granted, our offensive line was a fiasco. It was a joke. There was no continuity. It was a mess. So I'm not blaming all of Caleb Williams on that. But what I am saying is Caleb doesn't give his receivers the chance to catch the ball. I took golfing lessons, and when I was putting, my instructor told me, give luck a chance, meaning go for it. Go for the hole. And if you go past just a foot, that's great. You just don't want to be a foot short. Give luck a chance. And I think Caleb needs to get to the point that he trusts his receivers. I think he expects them to be wide open, and when they're not, and there's a chance there's going to be a defender right there, and it's a 50-50 ball, he tends to not throw the ball as much. We saw that last year. We're seeing it again. We saw it in the Chiefs game. Other than when he threw to Rome Odunze in the end zone. It ended up being double coverage. Rome became a defender and batted the ball down. But that's what you want to see. And that's going to give Caleb confidence to be able to throw those balls, because I think last year, I bet you a quarter of those sacks could have been taken off had he thrown the ball and given his receivers a chance to catch the ball. I know he didn't want interceptions. None of us want interceptions. I get that. But as he builds on this camaraderie with his receivers and gets this chemistry going, he's going to get confidence in them. We saw it with Oz this year. He just seems like he's got this mesh with Oz. He had it last year. With Allen, I just think that he needs that, and he needs to give his receivers the chance to catch the ball. I know that this preseason game with the Chiefs, you're getting vanilla plays. You're not getting it. Receivers still weren't getting open. Let's just be honest. Receivers were not getting open. And we were playing against the number one Chiefs defense, which is really good. I think they're in the top 10 for defenses. So it was a tough day for Caleb. But I think he's going to have to learn to also manage the time. It seems like for him last year, and even with the Chiefs game, even though we were playing against the second defense, he still did really well in the 2-minute warning. And it seems like that fast pace, he tends to take more chances. He tends to keep the ball moving. He has momentum. Saw it last year, seeing it again with the Chiefs game. So I think that's a plus. I think that's a positive thing. He's just going to have to learn to slow the game down. It's not a 2-minute, but still make those same throws that he does in the 2-minute drills that they have. I think he's off to a good start. Now, that being said, there's going to be some ups and downs this year. I mean, I think Ben Johnson even said it, you're going to go up a little bit, maybe come down a little bit, but you're consistently getting better and better and better. I think we'll see that as a trend. I think we're going to win more games than we did last year, even though we have a tougher schedule. I do think so. I think that Ben's scheme is going to help Caleb be better. I think of A lot of these great quarterbacks out there, and some of them are not because they're great quarterbacks. It's the coach that made them look good. And I think between the two, Ben being a great offensive coordinator and now head coach, and Caleb Williams being a great quarterback, I think that's a good mesh, right? But I still believe that the pressure is on Caleb Williams to get better this year, to win more games, and to continue to go up those steps towards success, towards learning, towards growing as a quarterback. I don't think this is going to be on Ben. If something happens with Caleb and he doesn't, for some reason, perform, this is not going to be on Ben. Caleb has no excuse. He's got receivers. He's got an offensive coordinator that's a guru at doing his job. Now he's a head coach. He knows how to manage timeouts. We saw that with all 3 of the preseason games. I think the pressure is on Caleb Williams. And I'm not saying pressure as in he's going to fail, but I'm just saying he has everything that he needs to be successful in the NFL right now at his fingertips. So I'm sure he feels it. And I think he'll be successful. I think Ben is going to alter the game. He said it before, the same calling that I had with Goff is not going to be the same calling that I have with Williams, because Williams' talents are different. How Williams plays the game is different, and I got to tailor it to it. So I think it's going to take some time for Ben and him to work things out. I think we're going to see up and down games. I think we're going to see some games that we just do not play well, and we look terrible. And I think there's other games that we're going to come out and it's going to be like playing against the Bills. Bam! We're on fire. And I think we're going to see that as a trend. I think this year is one of those years that I don't see us getting to the Super Bowl. Do I see us getting in the playoffs? Sure. I think so. Even though the NFC North is hard division to be in, I think we have some pluses for the Bears in the NFC North. But I don't see us being the Super Bowl contending team this year. I think this is my prediction. I think next year after the draft, that would be the Super Bowl contender that I could see coming. I do. I just think that to piggyback on that contending, a lot of fans have said, we need more running back. We need more running backs. We need more defensive end. We need more defensive line. And I would agree with the defensive end and defensive line. I don't know if we ever even came close to touching. I mean, I think Mahomes was hurried a few times and had to get out of the pocket, but never once did we collapse that pocket and get to him. And yes, Kansas City has a great offensive line. They do. They're in the top, I do believe, the top 5 in the NFL for offensive line. So I understand that, but it's also concerning. I mean, we got Montez Sweat that's got this huge contract. I think that he's owed $25 million possibly this year. That hurt. You have to put pressure on them. And I know DA is going to be dialing up some blitzes like he did, like he's done in the past. I think he's going to do that, and I think he'll do fine with it. But we definitely need some depth. I know Micah Parsons out there. I think he's too much money. I think Micah Parsons is one of those that you better win now. But I don't think he'll be on the Bears. Obviously, Trey signed his contract. He's out. I think there's some other ones out there that are veterans, free agency that we could pick up. I just don't think that Poles is going to want to extend them for very long. And I'm confident. I don't know for sure. But if I was a veteran DE, defensive lineman, and I was getting older, I would want a contract for X amount of years. And I think that's the holdup potentially for Poles going after some of these veterans is it's not just a 1-year deal. They want 2 to 3 year deals. And Poles is like, no, you're older. We want to move on. We want to draft. We want to do this. We want to do that. And I don't want to be stuck with a contract and have a bunch of dead cap space if we release you, which I think is smart. So I don't see Poles reaching too hard. Even though us fans really, really, really want to get to the quarterback, I just don't see us doing that. I see us going through the draft again and picking up some rookies to do it. And I think there's some growth within our organization, the Bears organization, that can grow this year with DA I also think, with two new coaches, there's going to be so many changes that happen with the defense and learning the defense that I think there's going to be a learning curve. We say there's a learning curve for Caleb with Ben Johnson. There's going to be a learning curve with the defense with Dennis Allen. It's just it's going to happen. So I think there's some of that comes into it too, and how they use the guys. Do I think there's some contracts that the Bears have today that make me wonder why did we get them? What's going on? Why did we go out and grab them? But I have to remind myself that Poles isn't alone in his decision. He's basing a lot or some of his decision based on the head coach and what the head coach is saying. So, with that being said, last year, Eberflus, some of the decisions I totally believe that Poles made last year and the year before that was based on what he's hearing that they need, and based on what the defense is saying they need, and based on the offense what they need, and then basing off of that saying, okay, I get this. This is what we can do, right? So in Poles' defense, yes, and you're going to say, well, that's still Poles' decision, and I get that. But he's still listening to his head coach. He's still listening to his defensive coordinators, his offensive coordinators. That's just a game. Management sticks together. If you've never worked for a corporate world, management sticks together. They're going to stick together. So now this new regime comes in. Ben Johnson comes in. Dennis Allen comes in. And all of a sudden, this player that worked in this scheme is not going to work in this scheme. And now that you're noticing a decline in this production here and a decline in this production here, doesn't necessarily mean it was a bad pick. It's just the scheme that the DA's running and the OC's running. You can't put 100% blame on Poles for that. The other thing is, and I'm sticking up for Poles. I'm going through some of the releases that I see. Obviously, teams are trying to get down to 53 by 3 o'clock today. And, I'm seeing second-round picks being put on waivers. I'm seeing third-round picks being put on waivers. I'm seeing first-round picks put on waivers, and not just, 2 to 3 years ago. So there's not a GM out there that hasn't made a mistake that said, wow, this really stinks, right? A great example of that is the Kansas City Chiefs. They go out and they get Mahomes, and I was thinking of that the other day when they were playing the Bears. They go out and get Mahomes. I'm not 100% sure that GM will ever get fired based on that one decision he made. But now you look at some of the releases they're having. Now you're looking at some of the holes they have. Now you're looking at some of the picks they got that they're getting rid of. Not only this year, but years in the past. And you understand that none of these GMs are perfect. They're not going to get it right. And then you see people that are, like Max Crosby out of, what was he? He was undrafted or 6th or 7th round pick or something. Look at him now. Look at Tom Brady. Look at Aaron Rodgers. Hate to say that name, but it's true. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, they were way down the line pick-wise. So Poles is not perfect, but I think Poles is going to get a little bit more accurate with the head coach he's got and the defensive coordinator he's got on who he gets on the team. I look at the running back situation right now, and I think there's 2 that are healthy that practiced the other day, Brown and Swift, and then they had Moore in the backfield. I don't think he's too concerned about it. I don't. I think if there's a good deal out there, a 1-year deal maybe to get us by, but I don't think they get a running back unless it's going to compete with Swift. I don't see any need to have any more backup running backs other than when they get hurt. But even when they do get hurt, you could probably go out on the street that next week and get somebody to fill them shoes. And if they're all on the waiver and wire and free agents, they're probably consistently close to having the same production. Not always the case, but in its entirety, probably. So I don't see any use of going out. The other idea is with the receiving room that the Chicago Bears have, I think of Burton. In my opinion, halfway through the season, a quarter of the way through the season, I'll just say halfway through the season, I totally believe that he could be a WR1. I think he has the potential to do it. You see the first rounders, they're supposed to be an immediate starter, right? He was projected to be in the top, be the first round draft. So I think he can be there. And that being said, the reason I'm saying that is I think DJ Moore is going to be more productive in the backfield and used as an option than almost receiving. When you have a Dunze, you have Burden, you have Oz, you have so many options at wide receiver that at this point, there's no sense in going out and getting another running back, signing him to a contract, a huge contract, only to hopefully maybe draft someone next year. I mean, I just don't see him on the running back side with the options they have with wide receivers, how Ben Johnson uses his tight ends. I just don't see it. But there's still a chance in free agency that we can grab somebody. I still don't think Poles is done at all with this roster. The 53-man roster has got to be met. Absolutely. Then you get your practice squad. But I think once all of that is in place, I absolutely can see Poles on the phone. And Poles said it himself. He said it. I'm always on the phone. I am always on the phone. Look at when we got Thuney. I mean, he wasn't going for him, but that's who we got, and we're glad. Love the guy. So he's always, I mean, you got to give Poles credit. And now with Ben Johnson leading the way, and I remember Poles looking at the camera and smiling, saying basically this. Now, that's not his words, but basically this is what he said. I love Ben Johnson because he talks football that I've never heard before. That's huge for Poles and his job security and who he is and how many draft picks we get and who we draft is based on this guru called Ben Johnson. And then you have Dennis Allen on the defensive side that knows it with his eyes closed. This is a match made in heaven for drafting and for picking up free agents, for trades. These are the guys that you would want on your team and that I have total confidence in. They're not going to get 100%. Nobody gets 100%. But it's a lot different than what we had last year. Totally different. In fact, you can't compare the two. Looking forward to this year. Bear down.